Welcome to the Hustling Podcast. Today we are joined by Mitch Ratcliffe, CEO of Earth 911. Hi there, Mitch. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Please do tell us more about Earth 911. I'm interested in the name and the origin story around that. What sort of sparked this name, and maybe if you could speak on the journey as well.
Well, Earth 911 is the most comprehensive and most visited source for recycling, reuse, and other circular living solutions for consumers. And it's designed to keep consumer products and packaging materials in circulation over and over. It's what we need to do in order to lower our impact on the environment. Um, and our customers are brands who have made very aggressive promises to be more recyclable, and we help them connect with consumers and finish that cycle with information about where they can recycle and how they need to prepare it. So whether it goes in their curbside bin, whether it goes to a local transfer station, to a nonprofit, a private recycler, we cover all the options, and we're adding more of those things now as new circular living options like refill programs, repair programs, and so forth are added. And the origin story, I bought the company in 2018, so about 6 years ago, and it was actually started in 1991 as a local search for recycling services, excuse me, in Arizona. And it grew up during the 1990s, largely in a partnership with the Environmental Protection Agency, and then passed into the hands of several garbage companies that continued to operate it. But I don't think they ever actually figured out what to do with it because they dealt in garbage and we were working on recycling. So my team, which is a small group, about a half dozen people, have been running the company for about 6 years now.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, you guys have been around for 32 years now, it would be. And of course, a lot of changes have happened in the space. I'm interested in some of the learnings and how the landscape looks like, from your perspective in terms of, recycling and keeping our earth green and just as far as, conservation and preservation. How does that look like? I mean, from the time when you joined and up until now, and maybe if you could speak on, the previous work that was happening, how
Sure.
does that look?
Well, there's a lot of questions in what you just asked. In terms of the general acceptance of the need for sustainable living, that certainly has really taken off. It was why I bought the company in 2018. You could see this coming. The rising incidence of extreme weather, drought, flooding, all of the things that we have unfortunately become so used to have convinced people that this is a real problem. So I think the debate over whether climate change is real or not is over. The question is, what are we going to do with that information? And a lot of companies and a lot of people are making aggressive changes. On the other hand, a lot of people and companies are not. And what we need to do, and what we feel Earth 911 is prepared to do, is be the organizing point for the circular economy where consumers and brands can come together to start to solve these problems. Now, the rise of circular services, which include recycling, reuse, refill programs, repair programs, composting programs, all of these different things require we have a map. And that's what we do, literally. We have a database of more than 280,000 locations in the United States. And we cover more than 500 different materials. So you can search, by plastic number one bottle and find out where you can take it. The In terms of where we are, there's been a lot of investment in increased recycling capacity in the United States, particularly since China stopped taking a lot of our exported waste in 2018. They announced a program called National Sword that basically said, we won't take your dirty trash anymore. So as a result, companies and investors in the States have built up new infrastructure, but connecting people to that infrastructure is the big challenge. One of the things that I think differentiates Earth 911 from everybody else in the market, and we have 6.5 times more traffic than any of our competitors individually. And if you add up all our competitors, we still have a third more traffic than all of them together. Most of them focus on individual materials, batteries or oil or something like that, or paint is another one. And so consumers have to go one place to find one recycling solution for one material and then another. We have all those materials, and so we can show you, and you can plan a visit to a recycling location and even start to dig around and find some other things you can take along because they're accepted. And we think that level of convenience is what we need to begin to deliver for consumers in order for them to act circularly. But the other thing that we do is we have a lot of sustainable living guidance on the site. So how to choose something that's more sustainable, how to identify fast fashion that's bad for the planet, or the impacts of different ingredients in the food that you buy. Soybeans, for instance, is one that is tied to deforestation all over the world. And so we help people shop their values and then follow through on their desire to keep that material in use. There's a lot of work to do. We are probably 10 or 15 years from the realization of what we will really think about as the circular economy. And this actually kind of goes back to what I did prior to this. I was a tech journalist and I worked in marketing and technology for the past 30 years. We're roughly where we were as a society in 1993. Some people, computer scientists and IT professionals, knew a lot about technology. And I was at Mac Week and wrote for a variety of those magazines back then. We had to explain everything to ordinary people who didn't know what a bit was, what a byte was. Why does a modem make that crazy sound, which a lot of people don't even remember, but at the time was just part of the confusion people felt when they approached technology. We're at the same point now with sustainability. Companies know it, professional sustainability researchers and so forth know it, but the rest of us, it's a mystery. So we're trying to solve the mystery by explaining things, sometimes in very simple detail, but often with a lot of sophistication about the kinds of decisions you can make to send a message to the companies you shop with that you want a better choice.
Yeah, that's a nice segue because I think my next question was going to look at how has, the emergence of digital technology sort of helped with awareness. And if you're saying that, that still looks a little bit slow, I mean, and I mean, I'm interested then in finding out, what do you think are some of the ways that can sort of speed up that? Because I mean, most people are using, social media platforms and digital platforms. Are the ways that you think the information can get to people much more easier? And
Yeah.
maybe let's also maybe talk about then before that what seems to be sort of the how do I put this, the gap between the knowledge and obviously people understanding sustainability in such an information heavy society.
So think about where we are with technology sophistication. We live in a digitally native society now, and we move from a digitally naive society. So we're sustainably naive today. There's a lot of things that it took 20 years for people to understand and really embrace in terms of technology. So, the web was introduced in 93, and that would be, I would describe the break point where suddenly technology became a consumer's concern. People wanted to be online. They started to learn to be online. Mobile phones and other kinds of devices came along, but the real revolution happened with the iPhone. Um, and then the really weird stuff started to happen around 2010 and 2012, 20 years after the introduction of this. So, Uber comes along and completely disrupts the taxi industry and the ride sharing industry. Airbnb changed the whole notion of what you could stay in as a guest. And then look at what happened with social media at the same time. It went completely cancerous, both in a good way and a bad way. We're really beginning to explain the nomenclature, the shared language of sustainability. And that's where I think the technology that is available to us today is phenomenal. And that includes modern database frameworks that don't have strong hierarchical relationships, but large flat file vector databases and so forth that allow us to do a lot more on-the-fly associations of information. AI, of course, is bringing a whole new level of our ability to synthesize information and hyper-personalize it. So we are working on a project right now to layer AI on top of all those locations that I described and all the guidance that we have about how to recycle something. So instead of what we have today, an article might say, if you live in a city where this kind of service is available, then do this. Or if you live in a city where this kind of service is available to do that, the AI will strip out all the stuff that doesn't apply to you and say, you live here, here's what you do. So we're working to make that incredibly simple, both online in terms of a website and as an embedded service in an app. We have an app called iRecycle, but we also license this capability to brands that want to put it in their sites or in their applications. And we're doing a lot of work now in terms of starting to organize a space where consumers and brands can come together to talk about not just, should I buy this, but how do I solve the problem of there isn't collection for this kind of material in my community? What kind of processor of those materials is necessary for that to be done in a sustainable way? Because a lot of stuff that we recycle today gets shipped halfway across the country or halfway around the world for recycling. When you think about all the carbon emissions associated just with the shipping, it starts to look pretty unsustainable. And so we're going to start to create um, regional circular economies where a lot of material stays effectively local, but that also drives a lot of new revenue and a lot of new business opportunity at the local level that ties into the global economy, but keeps those materials flowing within a sustainable geographic range.
Yeah. I want to change gears a little bit.
Mhm.
The audience here for Hustlewing is mostly side hustlers and contract work and contract workers. And you sort of mentioned projects that you guys are working on. I'm
Sure.
interested in maybe you could, speak to opportunities that might be available, even challenges that you guys might have where you could see yourselves leveraging some of the contract work from our
Mhm.
network.
Well, in fact, that's mostly what we do is engage gig workers on a fractional basis. Um, we right now we're working on AI problems. We have an excellent CTO who is leading that charge, and he's always looking for new AI development capability. We're also, looking for a DevOps, somebody who can work with us on the site and continuing customization of the site. We're launching some new capabilities, some forums and so forth that we want to be able to enable. Uh, Business development and sales is another key area. We just brought in a new vice president of sales. He comes from Microsoft. He launched the worldwide licensing program there. So a real powerhouse, somebody that an early career salesperson or business development person can learn a lot from. Um, and then we're looking for researchers and recycling and circular living experts to contribute to the site. Um, the researchers work in concert with, we have about 2,500 volunteer curators who add listings to our database, and then our team validates them. So we take the extra step to make sure the information is correct. That's the kind of job that could be done from somebody's back room anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world. So and having been a remote worker myself since the early 90s, I think that's the right way for us to create a work-life balance that is enjoyable and profitable for everybody involved.
Yeah. Mitch, before I let you go, you sort of spoken a lot around, sort of revolutionizing the idea of sustainability, and you spoke to the solutions, you spoke to the efficiencies that are coming with emerging digital technologies. But I am interested in the ultimate goal and vision, that Earth 911 is working towards. Before I let you go, let's maybe talk about a little bit about that.
Well, I think what we're trying to do is build an always-on sustainable living coach and embed it into a variety of different user experiences. And by doing so, using that AI and other capabilities we've talked about, we're going to help brands connect with individual consumers to really fulfill their circular promises. And one of the benefits of doing so is that you create a long lasting relationship with that consumer because you've partnered now to keep the materials in flow. It lowers the cost of the next sale. And so, where I see the circular economy really coming to fruition is in long term, continuously evolving relationships with the consumer. And that's the platform that we are building. In the long run, we're going to have capabilities to allow you to manage subscriptions. We'll have rewards programs and so forth. But right now, the real problem is how do you get all this information into contact with all of the other information it needs to know about in order to answer these questions. That's a standards development problem. There is no standard for describing sustainability related information at this point. At Microsoft, I worked on just standardizing and getting into schema.org, a framework for describing a customer support article. We don't have anything like that in the sustainability space. So we're working on thinking about those standards. We're working with various standards organizations to communicate how to talk about these services and how products interact with all of these services. So there's a lot of really cool work to do. Um, and I think where we're looking at going right now is over the course of the next 3 years, get that coaching capability really worked out, and then start to spread it so that it can help people interact with every decision that they need to make in terms of how it's going to impact the environment.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Folks who are interested in learning more about Earth 911, where can they find you on social media platforms, and maybe plug in the website as well?
Well, certainly at earth911.com. Check us out. Or if you want to search for recycling information, go to search.earth911.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We are on Instagram, on LinkedIn as well. Also look for me on LinkedIn, Mitch Ratcliffe. I spend a lot of time there. And if you want to reach out and talk with me, send an email to mitch@earth911.com.
Thank you so much, Mitch, for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.